Hey folks, it's Eugene here, and I am back with a video. This one is Vision 3D 1.1. So this is our first major release of Vision 3D since we released it late last year, 2024. And so it's about 6 months later now, and we've got a release with some new features in here. And this is what this tutorial video is going to cover, some of the differences. But I'm just going to walk through a complete project from start to finish, and you'll see what I'm talking about, and I'll make sure that I cover most of the points and most of the icons that are in here. But hopefully you'll see that it's really simple and really effective. So let's get to it. I am on the Vision 3D screen here. I'm on 1.1, and you'll notice that there's a few icons across the top, but they're all grayed out. And that's because I haven't created a new project. Now, inside of the 3D viewer here, okay, I can move around, and the left mouse button will rotate, the mouse wheel will zoom, and the right mouse button will pan. Okay, so we can drag this around the screen. Over here, I have my project view. It's like a hierarchy. And then down here, we have properties. So when you select something specific, you'll see all its properties and things you can change down here. So let's go ahead and start a new project. I'm going to click on this button right here. It's a new scene, and you can choose the project units. Okay, I'm going to work in meters, and this is going to be a Z-up system. So basically you could change this to a Y-up system. There are some programs and such that work in that regard, but we're going to stick with this right now. And let's go ahead and create. Okay. Now that we've created the project, this icon here is for opening projects, but we made a new project. Now I have access to these icons here. So I've got add point cloud, add a 3D model, and I've got add an image plane. And I'm going to be working with a point cloud today, but just to show you, I've got an image plane here. So I'm going to click on this one. And basically what you're doing is taking an aerial image. So just like something from a drone, or if you take like a Google Maps image, I've got one here that I already have sort of set up or took from a screenshot. And this will allow you to scale it. So even if it's just a regular image, if you have any 2 points where you know the distance, you're good to go. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take this little cross, okay, and I'm going to move it to one end. And normally you would do this much more accurately, but you'll get the idea here. You drag it over here, and this is giving me the distance in pixels. But what I'm going to do here is put in the real world units, and that's going to be 182 meters is something that I checked. And I'm going to change this to meters, and that's it. I'm just going to go ahead and go add. Okay, now when I zoom out, okay, I've got this image, and it basically becomes the reference plane. There's different things you can do with this, but it's already ready for measurement. So for example, if I go up to the measurement tool up here, I'm going to click on that. I can just click on a couple of points here, okay, and get a measurement. So that's pretty much it. If I click on the actual plane itself, you can see I can drag it, I can rotate it, and there's some things I can do here. It also says that it's a two-sided texture. So right now, if I rotate around, you'll see it's blank on the other side. If I click on this, okay, now it becomes double-sided, so you can see the texture on both sides. So nice little tool here. So let's say if you were doing like an outdoor scene or something like that, you could easily just take a Google Earth image, take some panoramic images, and then assemble this whole thing. So hopefully you get the idea. Let me delete that. Let me just make a whole new project. I'm going to go ahead and go new project, use the defaults again, and it clears everything out. Okay, let's bring in a point cloud. I'm going to bring that in. You'll see down here we have some different choices: CSV, E57, LAS, LAZ, PTS, POI. So there's a bunch of different options here, and I'm going to go in, and this is from the IPTM conference in Florida just last week, and so I collected some data, and I'm going to bring this in. So whenever you import a point cloud, you're going to get this little preview screen here. And this says, hey, this gives you some dimensions sort of the bounding box that goes around the 3D point cloud. And it tells you what are the units. What are you bringing this in as? Now, in our case, this is a Recon 3D scan. So it is in meters, but if you were doing something else and you exported from like a Faro Regal or something like that, and you decided to choose feet or inches or something, this is where you would change it right here. Okay. So you don't get messed up. Now the project units are in meters, but what we're telling the software is what is coming in is in a different units, and it will basically switch it over into the project units, which is meters. Now, fortunately, this is in meters, so it's really easy. And I'm just going to go ahead and just click on add. All right. Now here we go. Now we've got this point cloud and it's sort of centered here. This is where the 0, 0, 0 was. So there's some other tools that we can use now with the point cloud. And if I click on the point cloud, you'll see that I can very easily just move this around. I can drag it left and right and things like that. So if I need to center it or lift it up, it's just very convenient. I can just move it wherever I wish. And this is not limited to just one point cloud, but you can bring in, a photogrammetry model of a roadway. You can bring in a couple of cars. You can move them all around just really easily, sliding them around with the controller. But we've also added some tools here that you can do some different things. And so I'll start with this one here. Okay. And I'm kind of going a little bit out of order, but I'll start with this one here. This one here is just elevate to the pick point. So if I click on this, any point that I pick on, let's say like over here, it's going to take the Z value of that coordinate and it's going to zero it. So basically it's going to lift the whole thing up to the ground plane. So let me click here. Okay, and it just moves it straight up so that it is right on the grid. Okay, that's basically what it's doing. It's just right on the grid for that particular point. Now, if I put that back down, below or above, whatever, there's another icon here. And this one will make the selected point the new 0, 0, 0. So it'll basically place that point at 0, 0, 0. So let me click on that. And let's say that this little dark spot here has some significance and it's like my reference or so. So if I click on this, it's going to move this point to the origin of the global system here. So click on that. And now you'll see that I've got my, X and Y axes here. And that point that I clicked is now at the origin. Okay. So a nice, easy way to get things to the 0, 0, 0. If you've taken reference measurements by hand or you're trying to align it with reference to something else. Now, this other one here, okay, has local transform and global transform. So this point cloud I had aligned before, but let's say when you bring it in, it's not aligned properly. Okay, let's rotate this a bit. It's maybe something like this. Okay, so now you'll see that when I click on this, the local axis is moving this way. It's not moving directly with the global axis. So if I move this, it's moving diagonally in my global axis. So that's kind of a little bit of a pain sometimes. You want to move it, along the X or Y axis. So what you can do is just click on this and say, go to the global transform. And you'll see now I can drag it, okay, along the X or Y axes. Okay, so this can be a helpful tool. Now, let's do something else here. Let's say, for example, this was a photogrammetry model and you did it indoors. There's no GPS and I don't know, things are starting to just, they come in on an angle. And this is very common sometimes in photogrammetry projects where you don't have control points and such. I want to level this. Okay. So now I want this leveled on the ground plane. I don't want to have it like this. So what you can do is there's another button here. You click on this and it basically aligns with 3 points. So I'm just going to go 1, I'm going to go 2, and I'm going to go 3. And what it does is it aligns it back on the ground plane. Okay. So it levels it for us, which is really, really useful. Okay. So you got a bunch of tools here that you can use, depending on what you need. If you need to lift it or lower the point cloud or move it around, look at these little transformation tools. They can be really useful. Okay, so now that we've got this where we want it, we want to start adding media. We want to start adding things to it. So all I'm going to do is just walk across these icons right here. So let's go ahead. I'm going to start with this little point coordinates. Okay, so if I click on that and I click on a point, okay, I've added a coordinate. So it basically tells me the X, Y, and Z of these different points. So if I click on this, and I'm going to go always show text. Okay, so now I got rid of the icon and I'm just showing the text. If I uncheck that, okay, it just shows this little target. And then when I hover over it, it shows me the coordinates. But let's say I go always show text and I'm going to add a couple more. Let's say I'll do one back here and I'll do one more back over here. Okay, and I don't know, these could be of some significance, whatever it might be, but you can add point coordinates very, very easily. The next one over is for measurement. So if I click on this measurement tool, I can click on the hood, let's say, and then I can click a point on the ground. I can also do, items on the vehicle. So let's say I do the center of this rim to the center of this rim, something like that. No problem. Okay, I get the distance. And you can easily go and click and drag these. Okay, it'll snap to the point cloud and you can readjust or reposition these to make it a little bit more accurate depending on what you want to measure. Now, a couple of things you can see here, this particular one where it says, 3.98 or whatever, I've got an elevated point and I've got a lower point. One thing you can do with this is if you click on this measurement is I can show the components. So if I click on that, what you'll see is I now get the horizontal and the vertical component. So that's a nice and handy tool to have, and you can just bring it on anytime. So if that is on, that's very useful. Something else you can do, and I should mention this, is you've got this settings up here. Okay, so normally on other programs, you've got like a settings button or something like that. Well, here it's right in the hierarchy. If you go to the very top, you got a number of settings that you can control here. And these can be set by yourself. You can do all this. And then if you want to save your preferences and such, you can go File, Preferences, and just go Save as default. And the next time you open it up, it should save those settings for you. And, especially if you're working in the same units and you like the same camera field of view and text size and all that stuff. So mine's are going to be a little bit different than maybe what you have by default. But what I was going to get to was on these measurements here, there is a setting that says occlude measurements. If I click on that, you'll see that part of these measurements here, the horizontal and the vertical, get hidden behind the object. So if you don't want them sort of showing through, okay, you can just click on occlude measurements. I'm just going to leave them on like this. In fact, I'm probably just going to shut them off. Okay, I don't need the components, but just to show you that it's there, and that's something that you can do. All right, so we got point coordinates, we got measurements. Let's continue on with images. So any image, so there's an image tag, you click on it, click on a point on the hood, and I'm going to go into my reference folder here and scroll right about here. So this one here is a view that I have of the hood that's crushed. Oops, I'm going to double click that and then bring it in. So I've got this little camera icon. Now you can position this icon if it's being hidden, or I don't know, if just you don't like it there, you can lift it up, you can move it left, you can move it right, and then you should have a leader line here. So you don't have to show the leader line, you can uncheck that, it disappears. I'm going to leave it on for now, and when I double click the image, it will show you what you have. Now you can see that this particular image is rotated at 90 degrees. I'm just going to rotate it. Boom, just like that, and problem solved. Okay, it's now upright, it's in the proper orientation that I wanted, and I'm just going to close that out, and it will save this when I package this entire scene. So that's just images, and it's the same thing. Just add an image, put it someplace, add an image, and click on the point cloud. Very, very simple. Next, what I'm going to do is add a panoramic image. So I'm going to click on this panoramic image. I'm going to click on the headrest here, like that. And it works basically the same way. I've got a panoramic image of the interior of the vehicle. So I'm going to double click on that, and there it goes. It shows there. Now, if I want to drag this out a bit and I want to move it, you can definitely do that. Okay, so I've got a leader line. Maybe I'll get rid of the leader line. Just uncheck it, and there it is. So it's just a free floating tag. When I double click it, you can see that I can see the driver's view. Okay, so this is the inside of the vehicle, approximately in the same spot. So a really great tool for, visualizing with different media like this 360 camera. Next, we've got video. So let's say I've got a position, and I don't know, I did an animation of this before. So I'm going to click on this. I'll put it maybe off to the side here, and I'm going to bring it in, and that's my video tag. So this could be a recorded video, could be an animation, whatever it is you want. I'm going to double click that just to bring it up, and there you go. I've got an animation of this crash looking at it from different angles. Great. Leave it there. And let's keep going. I've got text. The text, same thing. Click on it, click on a point on your point cloud. And this is from the IPTM 2025. So I'm just going to go IPTM 2025, and I'm going to save that. Okay. And there it is. It's right there. I'm going to lift that up a bit. And I can also always show text. Just go like that. And now the text will always show. No problem. Great. So I've got text. I also have viewpoints. Okay, so this is a viewpoint. So what that does is, let's say there's a very important view. So maybe this position right here is important for people to see. I want them to see the alignment of these vehicles. So I'm going to click on viewpoint like this. Boom. And you saw that was a little flash there. I'm going to move out of this position, and you'll see that I have this viewpoint, and I have what's called a frustum, a camera frustum. So I can make this frustum bigger or smaller from the settings. There is a setting for that over here. It's, where the heck is it? I know it's here. Let's see. I know it's down here somewhere. There it is. Camera frustum size. It says 300, so I could make that 500 or 600 or something like that. So if I go 500 and I go enter, you see I just made it a little bit larger. Or if I click on this, I could just shut it off. Don't show the camera frustum. I just want the little viewpoint tag, and then I'm good to go. Now, if you double click on this, okay, you will fly into the position. So you could set up a whole number of these throughout the scene and basically, get into very specific positions where you want to show people that something happened or there's a piece of evidence or something that's really important, okay? Now, one more thing that you can do with these that I think is really important is you can set one up as your starting view. So if you go to your settings over here and go to the very bottom, it says start view. If you click down on here, any viewpoints that are listed here will show up. Now I only have one, but I'm going to click on viewpoint 11. And what that means is when I start this project and when I start the viewer, it will always start in that as the first position. So instead of, just some random position that maybe you're not happy with, you can actually set up the exact view that you want to start this thing off, which is kind of cool. Okay, well, that's the viewpoint. And then you'll see here, I've got a documentation tag. So I'm going to click on that. Maybe I'll click on the vehicle here like that. And I'm just going to place the schedule that came from the website over here. And there you go. Okay, so I got this little documentation tag. When I double click it, well, basically I just get the schedule for the conference. Okay. And there is a little caveat here with all these tags and all these little things that we're adding. The person who you're going to be giving this to needs to have a computer. Well, besides a graphics card, they need a computer that will recognize the extensions of the files that you want to play. So if it's a JPEG image, they need a program that will play JPEGs. If it's a PDF, they need a program that will open PDFs and so forth. Okay. So for example, video files sometimes can have strange extensions. So if it's an MP4, it's a very common format. But if you have something like a DAV file or maybe some other strange format, it may not play. So stick with safe type of file formats that can play kind of universally on different people's computers, and then you'll be good to go. All right, these other items that are across here are like the grid, show and hide. This is like kind of like if you get lost with the view, you can sort of hit the reset view and then it'll kind of get the point cloud back into view. This is to go to perspective and orthographic camera views. This is for the center of rotation. So if I make this visible, you'll see I've got this cross here. And if I move it, it'll set the rotation point in a different location. So that's where it's rotating about right now, where that cross is. If you don't have this selected, if you double click on a point, it makes that the center of rotation. So if I click over here like that, double click, that is now the center of rotation. So it just kind of moves your screen. And if you had like a really, really long roadway, you can just double click in any point and make that the center of your rotation. The next one is just the show or hide some of the tags that we've got. And then this one here is to save a screenshot. So if you bring it up, you can save this as a JPEG image. Okay. Great. So that is pretty much it. That's everything that we need to do here. I'm going to show these image tags again. Now we want to save this scene. So go File. I'm going to save this scene as, and I'll just put this on my desktop and I'll call this the crash, and good enough. And this will save. And then usually when it saves, it'll say, hey, you're all good to go. Next thing I'm going to do is go export media list and export measurement list. I want to show you these because these are great suggestions from users and people that were kind of giving us some feedback on the beta version that we had. So if you add 40 or 50 different types of images and different things like that, you can get lost in, hey, what did I actually add in this particular project? So what you can do is you can go File, you can export a media list. And let me just put that on my desktop. And I'm just going to call this the media list. No problem. Media list. And what this will do is it will collect all of the different images and panoramic images and videos and such and create a list for you. So if you ever had to enter this as evidence, you would also know what all of the accompanying images and things were that you needed. So that's kind of helpful. The other thing that you can do is you can export a measurement list. So if you have all these point coordinates and everything else, and you wanted to get some kind of a text file of everything, I'm just going to call this measurement and get that out. That's saved. Great. Okay. So we're good there too. Now, let me show you what this looks like on the desktop. You can see I've got a media list, I've got the measurement list, and this is my Vision 3D file, which is the crash file. So let's go and look at the media list. And you'll see here that I've got, oops, that's measurement. Here's I got media. So I've got the image name, and it tells me it's, this JPEG. I've got the panoramic image. It's this JPEG. I've got the animation, and I've even got the PDF document over here. If I go to the measurements, you'll see that I've got X, Y, and Z coordinates for the points. And I also have the distances. Now it's giving me X1, Y1, Z1, which is 0.1. Then there's 0.2. There's the 3D distance, and it also gives me the vertical and the horizontal distance for each of the measurements. So ton of stuff there for you. You're never going to be wanting, well, maybe there's a few more things you might want. We'll see. But a lot of information there on all the measurements. Okay. So you could bring this into another program if you wanted. Okay, now it's the moment of truth. We have to export this as a viewer, and it's really simple to do. All you need to do is go File, and we're going to export the scene. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to export the scene. So now you have some options here. Okay, the first one says show the project hierarchy. So that's this right here, okay? Not the properties, but just the hierarchy. So in the viewer, if you want to turn things off and on just for visibility, you can add that, or it says enable measurements. You can have people take measurements or not, okay? Now, if you have it off, then basically the measurement tools are going to be grayed out, but let's put them on for now so you can kind of see what we got and just go okay. And this is on my desktop, so I'm going to call this the crash viewer. Why not? And go ahead. And this is going to collect all the data and wrap it all up into a zip file. And that zip file is going to be on the desktop. So, okay, we're good there. Let me just show you. And there it is. So this file here is what you would actually give to somebody or send to somebody so that they, put on a USB key and give it to them, or just, send it to them via a service like Google Drive, Dropbox, OneDrive, whatever. What I'm going to do is I'm going to extract this and open up the folder. So let me go ahead and do that. Okay, it's pretty quick. There wasn't a very big project. There we go. Now, when it opens, this folder has a bin folder that contains all of the data that you need and a batch file. It's called Vision 3D. All that you need to do is double click the Vision 3D file, and you'll see that it will open the viewer. And you can see that it's already animating to go into the initial view that we had set before from the viewpoint. So let me maximize this. I've got my hierarchy, and I've got some measurement tools here. And these are just some of the visibility tools that I have from before. So no problem there. Great. So if I want to, collapse the hierarchy, there's a little arrow here. I'm just going to collapse that. And there you go. I've got more real estate and just a really, really simple screen. Only a few buttons here. Okay. And, there's some instructions here, mouse wheel to zoom and things like that. It gives you some information about the camera view and such. So pretty limited on what you can do, but that's the idea. This is something you want to use for presentation purposes at trial, or you just want maybe a client to look at what you've got. And if you click on the image tag, you can see it opens up. It's in the proper orientation. If I expand this view, maybe there's some things that I want to hide. Maybe some of these point tags I want to get rid of. So I just, I can hide these, no problem. It does allow me to take some additional point coordinates. So if I just click on a point here, okay, I've got that there. Maybe click on one down here. Okay, so I've added a couple more here, and I've also got some measurements. So if I wanted to add a measurement across the ground or something, I can click on that and it'll do that too. Now, these measurements and point coordinates that I'm adding are not going to be saved. Okay, so this viewer is locked. The whole purpose of this thing is that you're not going to be able to edit this, and it's locked down. However, you can add measurements, while you're sort of working away. So if you were at a trial and somebody said, hey, how wide is this lane or something? Oh yeah, okay, let me go ahead and try that. Maybe from the center here to the center here. Okay, we're talking about, 3.76 meters or something like that. So it allows you to do a number of different things, but these will not save. Okay, so you have to keep that in mind. But that is the basic premise of Vision 3D and what it does. And I've just walked you through a whole bunch of different features in the software. Pretty simple to use. If you can follow this tutorial video, you can probably figure out all the rest yourself. And there's really not a lot more there. But whenever you really want something, always hunt in the properties. So let me go back to the editor. So this is the editor. When you click on something, always look in the editor here. There's things you can do. So for example, here for this tag or for different things, you can edit certain things and you can move other things around. So for example, this particular image tag here, I've got the tag position and I've got the anchor position. So the anchor is at the base of the leader line. And if you right click, you can say move anchor position. So now I can actually drag the anchor position to a different location. So I can have it stick to something else. Okay. Like maybe the ground or whatever. So it gives you options to do a number of little things, but just have a look here. This will sort of tell you what can be visible, what you can move, and that sort of thing. So I think I'm going to leave it there, folks. Lots to chew on there. Have a lot of fun with Vision 3D. All the people who are current users are going to get the upgrade coming through right away, and you'll see it as an update that comes through the software. There are a couple of little things that I haven't mentioned, but for example, licensing, you can now deactivate on one computer and then add it to another computer. And so, you don't need a new license file for that. It should be able to work. And yeah, hey, have fun with it. Hope you enjoyed this video, and look for more tutorial videos that are going to be coming soon. Thanks a lot, everyone. Bye-bye.